For those of you who are barely awake yet, I'd better point out that there is a pun involved in that title. Was conceived by the Beatles as a business empire that would not only be huge and successful, but also fun for all involved. But alas, like the best laid plans of mice and men, the best laid plans of Beatles also gang after gley. And today Apple closes down. To mark this unhappy event, the Beatles' close friend and publicity man, Derek Taylor, has been talking to Richard Skinner about the history of the company.
The Beatles' Apple core was seeded out of the flower power summer of 1967. Love, peace and happiness. That's what inspired the Fabulous Four to launch the empire. And the first man they turned to was their former press agent, Derek Taylor. He was almost an honorary Beatle.
All came visiting and said, we've had a good idea. We're going to form a company called Apple. It'll be a jolly company whereby lots of people with good ideas and needs would be well satisfied. If they wanted to make a movie or a record which mightn't have obvious commercial possibilities, then they could come to Apple, and Apple would make it possible for these dreams to be realized.
But it was difficult to turn that dream into a reality.
I spent most of my time in a state of what can only be described as euphoria. We were either out of our heads with panic or with euphoria in all its many forms, because it was quite impossible. And like all people who try the impossible, we failed.
And that failure meant the Beatles had to bring hard-headed business into their dream world. The man they chose was American tycoon Alan Klein.
Not a very agreeable man, but he seemed to John to have some hope, because he would say, that's wrong, and I'll fix this and I'll fix that. And of course he did fix a great many things, including pinning an awful lot of problems onto us too, which we didn't already have. I mean, we didn't actually fear each other until he came.
But this was 1969, and by now the personal gulf between each Beatle was widening. John, George, Paul and Ringo were all starting to do their own things, and without them, Apple couldn't survive.
The Beatles, to become human beings, full human beings, owning their own income and their own lives, had to break up. And then when that happened, there was no longer any need for an Apple. And in the long run, I guess not an awful lot was lost, except money. But we did, it should be a warning to anyone who sees themselves as God, not to play God, but only to take on really what you can handle.
Well, and that sad but musical tale brings us to the end of today's program.